Welcome back to Kings on Deck, everybody. This is the I guess you can kind of say our Road to Omaha special edition here, special show here. As in case you didn't know, yes, the Kings made the tournament, so we'll be at the Hattiesburg Regional in southern Mississippi for the University of Southern Mississippi and Hattiesburg Regional next weekend. So we'll definitely get to that in a little bit. However, let's kind of backtrack a little bit, right, and how we got here, because about let's say 3 weeks ago, we were riding high, man. We were excited. JD Arteaga dyed his hair blonde. Everything was going in the right direction. Kings lose 6 of the next 7 ball games. 2 ACC opponents that are on the bubble to make the tournament.
It got a little dicey there.
A little ugly, yeah.
We haven't done a show since the last show we did was the night before the 9 a.m. first pitch against Cal, where they got blasted. I mean, it's been a long week. We were thinking, I did warn you, Cal is not that bad. They had 9 ACC wins, but never did I think we were going to get run ruled. I mean, that was holy crap. That was not good.
That was ugly. Good news is, this is the second time that I see Derek Williams on camera with no wrist, with nothing on his wrist or nothing on his hand again. All right, so it leads me to believe I just want him in the lineup so bad. We need another bat in the lineup. Anyways,
I think it's such a hard ask though to. I guess I think we talked about this last week, right? I mean, I think it's unfair to have expectations, but given the anemic nature of a large part of our lineup, worth a shot.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we get mid-season Derek Williams before he's injured back, that's the second.
I don't think Derek would tell you otherwise, right?
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, like, there's so many unproductive at-bats that you gotta give it a shot, right?
It's tough.
Assuming he's not gonna injure it worse, because we don't know, so we don't know the injury. But
right, exactly.
But I wouldn't hesitate to just put him back in the starting lineup at this point somewhere. DH or the field somewhere. Like DH makes some sense.
Right.
Just that way easy in, yeah. But that would be, I mean, it's like I said, I don't think it's hurt. Yeah.
The thing is that he's that kind of all out kind of guy, right? Like he steals bases, he throws himself all over the place. Like he's a really, really kind of like that Charlie Hustle type of guy. So so as you mentioned, right, Kings lost 6 of the last 7, and they got blown out by Cal.
Yeah, and it got dicey when a bunch of bids got stolen over the weekend. So it was a little bit, some projections. I never saw a projection that didn't have us in, but some of them we were in the last 4 in. Turns out, the actual tournament, we were not one of the last 4 in. So
God knows people wanted us out. That's for sure.
I think it's a difficult situation because. You mentioned it, right? Those losses were to bubble teams. Notre Dame, 2 or 3 to them. They were on the bubble. Virginia got swept. They were on the bubble. And then another team on the bubble that didn't get it was Connecticut, who we obviously lost 2 out of 3 to at home. So fortunately for us, the committee didn't think too kindly of head-to-head. And so we got it quite easily. But actually, they did address that, and I do think it's a problem, right? In that we talked about this on the football show a minute ago, but when you have these baseball conferences like 18 teams and 16 teams, and I'm like, you're not going to play that many series in baseball. So the schedule, like Virginia played the easiest ACC schedule and won 16 ACC games. We won 15 against one of the toughest ones. Like our strength of schedule was 8th. There's 111th. So it's hard to, that at that point RPI is 20 spots higher for us. So then, they kind of ignored head-to-head. But, yeah, it did get a little dicey there. But, yeah, the Kings were a lock 2 weeks ago to, yikes, maybe they screwed this up.
I mean, they're talking about locking it in for even a 2 seed and maybe regional if you win it all. Maybe you're hosting if you win it all. But no. It's a 3 seed for the Kings in the Hattiesburg Regional. Let's talk about it because you've got some pretty good baseball teams that are going to be joining the Canes over in Southern Miss, over in Hattiesburg. Obviously, number 1, the 16th seed in the whole tournament, which is the Southern Miss. They are hosting the regional in Hattiesburg, followed by the number 2 seed in the regional, which could have. I mean, if you think about it, they could have hosted with their strength of schedule. But playing the SEC, really tough schedule. Alabama gets the number 2 seed in the Hattiesburg Regional, followed by us, the number 3 seed, and then the number 4 seed is
Columbia.
It's Columbia, exactly. The Baby Blues. Columbia, who's another team that won some good ball games. A tricky, really good baseball program. What was their record again? Their record was, I don't know if you have it up here.
No, I got everything in here.
17. So they didn't play as many games.
No, and they don't have any good. I mean, they're the 4 seed for a reason. Right?
Hey, they got a guy named Thomas Santana on the team. Leave him alone. All right. That's their stud. All right.
Well, that's the first problem. No, I'm just kidding. So no, I mean they're if we want to start with Columbia and work our way forward, right? So they they are the 4 seed for a reason. They did get the automatic bid out of the Ivy League. They did not, as is typical of some of these teams, they did challenge themselves a little bit out of conference, but just got killed. They played Georgia and Oregon out of conference and went 0 for 7 in those games. So this would be a pretty big turnaround for them to go.
Right.
Win the opener against Southern Miss. Their pitching's not great, even though majority of it was against the Ivy League. So they kind of feel like they're going to get at least. Now, we'll say there's 2 things here, right? Because we're obviously looking at this from a Canes perspective. Southern Miss has 2 really good pitchers. I'm assuming they'll throw one in the first game, the other in the second game.
Right.
And yeah, I think they'll handle Columbia pretty easily. Now, when we're going to talk about Alabama, who's obviously the Canes opponent, if we were to lose that, we've lost to bad teams this year quite a few times. So,
right.
I would not. Well, I don't think I'd be pretty shocked if Columbia beats Southern Miss in the opener. If we fall into the losers game, it's not slam dunk that we're getting out of that because we've lost to those types of teams.
Right.
Another example of a team that AQ that blew us out at home is Stetson. Right,
Yep.
They got an automatic bid, and they're a 4 seed, and so is Columbia, and Stetson beat us pretty badly. So,
right.
I would say for us, we can beat anyone, lose to anyone. I think we've proven that. I think Southern Miss, the reason they're the host is they're a lot steadier. They kind of get more consistency.
Some of their key losses were to Marshall. Marshall's always
they lost 2 or 3 to Marshall early, and then went this huge winning streak. Which kind of ended when they lost to again, schedule imbalance is going to be, I think, a story for years to come now because these mega conferences are there. Like they didn't play Coastal until the championship game yesterday.
Did they beat them?
They lost to Coastal in the conference championship. Okay. Coastal's also hosting, obviously. So
right. So that's why because
there's 2 Sun Belt teams hosting, which is like shocking.
Yeah.
2 Sun Belt, no Big 12.
Interesting.
But so because of schedule imbalance, but they do have some good wins. They've gone out and I mean if you're obviously you're familiar, Jazz, but if people are new to college baseball, like Southern Miss is a really good program. So
yes,
this is not the first time they've hosted supers before. Actually, like they're one of the better mid-major programs in the country. So this is not really surprising. But yeah, they've got some decent wins. They have 2 good arms. They have a really good closer too. So we don't want to fall behind there. And I do think they got the host over TCU because they won that series. It was kind of they were kind of in there for the last hosting spot. Because Southern Miss is the lowest seeded host, 16. So they were 1 spot away from not hosting. And I think that they won 2 of 3 from TCU is probably why this is here instead of
very good ball club, 44-14. As you mentioned, man, this is a team that's hosted before. Has been prominent in college baseball for quite some time, and so first of all, you got to go into a place where, regardless of who you are, whether it's Miami, Alabama, Columbia, you got to go to a place and play on their home field. Home field advantage in college baseball is big. These crowds get rowdy. These crowds get loud. You're not very familiar. This is not like like Major League Baseball where you've played in these fields before. You've played against these guys a lot, or you've at least have been to Boston's been to Miami, Miami's been to Boston, Miami's been to New York, and so if you play somebody like that in the postseason, you got a feel for those stadiums. You understand what they're like, the dimensions. How the wind plays, how the grass rolls. All of these things are tough. Southern Miss has the upper hand there, right? This is their home field, and they also have two, like you said, two top
Yeah,
guys.
and you can't, and obviously we're going to spend a majority of the time probably talking about us playing Bama because that's the first game. Like, you can't underestimate the fact that, like, they're very likely to just bank a win on Friday and go into the winners bracket,
The
and
good
that
news is, here's the thing, right? There's no scout. There's really not much scouting you can do now. This is scouting you're going to do is this week, really. Maybe you watch some tape, but it's hard. It's hard to really know who you're playing because you've never played any. Typically, you haven't played any of these teams that you're going to be playing in your regional. So
right.
that's where I don't want to say the advantage is for a team that's coming in that's lower seeded, but that's a way that you can sneak up on someone is they don't know your style of play as much as maybe some other
I
teams.
mean, I think they will buy, and actually that's a good segue, I think, because I think they will buy the time the game comes around Friday. So if you look at Bama, who we kind of skipped over again, because I think we're going to spend more time on them, since we know we're playing them. So they do have two kind of options, I think, to potentially start here. Tyler Faye is the guy who's been their starter most of the year, their Friday starter. So he's typically in the 2-3 game, you throw your Friday starter. Like, I'd be shocked. I mean, not even shocked. It's not happening. We're throwing Hugas. Like, I mean, that's obvious, right? So like if you're the 1 seed, you might sometimes hold your starter back, or you're not doing that in a 2-3 game. So here's the interesting thing, though, right? So Tyler Faye has been their Friday guy. He's been solid, but they have another starter who's actually, appeared in more games, started more of the season, and importantly, Zane Adams. He's lefty.
Yes,
And we know our lineup is heavy on the lefties and struggles against left-handed pitching. So do you think Alabama throws the lefty here? Because I would throw the lefty, even though he's got a higher ERA and he's not normally their number one guy. I'm throwing him. I'm throwing the lefty against Miami.
If I'm Alabama, I'm throwing Zane Adams. I mean, like you said, we've got 17 lefties in our lineup. So, yeah, if I'm him, unless you get Derek Williams in there in the line. Oh, I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry.
Even if you put Derek Williams in, I'm assuming that, like, okay, so actually let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about our lineup as it, I will say the one thing we led the show off the Canes stumbled down the stretch, obviously lost 6-7. They've played one game in the last basically 2 weeks by the time the game starts. So it's a reset. Like, whatever momentum, if they were hot, they've been sitting. If they were not, they've been sitting. So, all right, so a bit of a reset. I think the top four we're kind of locked in on, and they're performing. It's Ogden, Max, Cuvée, and Dorian. Now, after that, I think Tanner Smith will be there somewhere, but he doesn't. Sometimes he's behind Dorian, sometimes he's further back. He'll be in there. That's a fifth batter.
Right.
I'm assuming we're gonna see still.
If it's Zane, you'll probably see.
Is it
Tavares? You might see Tavares.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe you still see.
Yeah,
Marsh,
yeah.
Right?
I mean, Bobby Marsh is the guy. Well, again,
I mean, he's the wild card. If he can go back to what he did at the beginning of the season and kind of get hot again, now you're talking about.
Yeah, and again, maybe this time off will kind of help him mentally reset. I think we both saw him kind of mentally just struggling at the plate. Just it's one of those things where if you can get a couple of things to go your way, then everything kind of flows from there. And then he just never got that opportunity. So maybe just that time off. I would say it's probably him or Tavares. I think if it's a righty, it's definitely him. If it's a lefty, don't know. And then the other ones are still Fabio and Mikey. You would think.
And Renzo
will be a first. I know Danny mentioned potentially getting Hudson back. My understanding is he's done for the year, so I don't think we're going to see Todd again this year. Right. Derek was one that was kind of questionable whether he'd be able to make it back. I think Todd, they never did an official he's out for the year, but I think not understanding as he was, so I don't think we're going to see him.
And to be honest with you, I think I'm okay with Renzo. I think Renzo was able to build up, and hit the ball a little bit. Hit the ball well a little bit, and he's slumped a little bit right now, but just like everybody else, but still hitting in the 230, 240 area.
Yeah, so. I don't think there's that much. He's a very different player than Todd Hudson. They both do certain things well, certain things. Sure. But I think overall, from a team perspective, it's kind of negligible.
Yeah.
Now Derek Williams is a totally different story. If he's back to playing the way he did, that's just a huge lift over everyone else that we potentially put in the lineup.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of expect the rest of the line to be the same. And then the question is that swing. It's the TH, ironically, that we can't get any consistency out of.
I know.
Um,
It's interesting because I think that just to keep him healthy, you put him as a DH. But I'll be
but I
honest
also
with
think
you, he was
you
100% healthy, and this was his first game back. I just at this point I don't trust the hitting of a guy like Mikey Torres. I understand his defense. I mean, he's the best center fielder in college
yeah,
baseball.
but I guess my question with this is, and so I would say, Fabio too started hitting really well and kind of struggled again, freshman wall a little bit.
Sure.
I think he actually had a little bit of a bounce back towards the end against Notre Dame, especially. So, he was kind of one of the few guys that was kind of went through the lull and was coming back up the other side. But then who do you like? So let's say let's say Derek is able to play in the field and we go ahead and put him back in right field, which is where he was. So then you put either Fabio or Mikey in center. Who's DHing though?
Yeah, I think it's
still the same problem, which is why I think you almost stick with Fabio and Mikey for the defense at that point.
Yeah, you're right. And the problem here's where it would make it easier if Bobby had a really good last series.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about okay. I mean, he did get a couple of hits actually. If I'm not mistaken, he got a couple of hits in the series, but you were still mixing and matching with Kulikowski and Tavares and Bobby. So it just shows you that they're not fully trusting him just yet. If he would have gone like 5 for 10 or something crazy like that, now you're talking about all right, I can put Derek Williams at right field. But right now, I agree. You would have to DH Derek Williams.
You'd have to either way, or like you can take Mikey or Fabio out and put Derek in the field. Let's say he's healthy enough to do that.
Right.
Then you still have the problem of like who do you DHing? You might as well leave them in there for defense. I will say this, Danny. I don't think you put him in the 4 spot, even if you think I think you got to break up that lefty logjam. I think I'd rather Dorian there and then maybe Derek 5th or maybe Tanner Smith and kind of spread them out so you don't just. I would
maybe put
that consecutive string of lefties.
Yeah,
death for us against left-handed pitching because there's no righty in that. When you go all the way, it was Fabio, Mikey, Renzo, like all in a row. Like being able to break that up, and then when March is in there, him too. Yeah, being able to break that up with a righty, I think, is important. So I'd rather drop Derek in the middle of that than put him at 4.
Here's my thing: I like Tanner Smith at the bottom of that lineup because Tanner Smith can hit the hell out of a fastball, right? If you leave it over the plate, if you leave it anywhere near the plate, he can hit it. He's got some pop. He can drive the ball a little bit, and if he's at the bottom of the lineup, chances are he might see more fastballs. He might see more hittable pitches down there, and that'll give him an opportunity to kind of, get something going for the bottom of the lineup. Because, like you said, man, you got to break that up a little bit back there because, let's say you get Derek and then you follow with Renzo or Bobby Marsh, I guess, as your DH. You're probably going to hit. I would probably hit Tanner Smith 7th, and then get the 2 lefties instead of 3 lefties in a row. Right? That's probably what I would do. So, I think it all depends because if one of those guys gets hot, then you're talking about having a solid little lineup, right? Because chances are there's no team in this tournament that's 1 through 9 scared. Well, there is, but not in this bracket, right? Not in this regional.
Well, I mean, let's be real with our team. We're so up and like one of the reasons we were controversial, I would say, is because, as you mentioned, we lost to a bunch of bubble teams. We look like complete ass several times, right? The number of times we walked out the field after the top of the first night, this game's over, right? I mean, I can't even remember a Miami team like that. But then on the other end, the highs, like there are 3 2 seeds, Duke, Georgia Tech, and NC State, that we went 7-1 against. Like, damn. Right? I mean, bubble teams don't do that either. So it's just like this team is so up and down. I mean, that Notre Dame series was a perfect example of it, right? Those last 2 games, Run ruled them and then turned around and like got killed. And it was just like same teams. And I think that up and down nature, yeah, they can beat anyone, they can lose to anyone. I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if we'd lost the first two games, which is done. I wouldn't be surprised if we won all three because we've swept teams.
Right.
This team has been so all over the place that anything could happen with this team. Like you said, there are those, but even like the top, like Georgia Tech won the ACC and they swept them. So I mean, I think this team can beat anyone, and I think they can. I think they've shown that, and I think they've shown they can lose to anyone too. So they're definitely. If I was another team, I wouldn't want Miami in my bracket because you don't know.
Don't know.
It's hard to prepare for.
If they get hot, they've got the pitching for it, right? They've got the starting pitching for it because
Let's talk about this. So we've struggled pitching down the stretch. That Notre Dame game and Cal game back to back was brutal. It feels like a lot of our arms are tiring a bit. Some that we went to one of the reasons for that nice win streak we had in the middle of the season, which is why we're still playing, was he consolidated the staff down. I was like, I'm going to lean on these arms, and I think maybe did that a little bit too much because they seemed like those same guys that were coming in time and again delivering in that win streak were the ones getting hit.
Right.
And that can happen when you overuse your arms there. I mean, we all remember that Virginia game where he went to Walters in like the 7th, and it's like that's too much. That's too much.
I think not going deep into the the ACC tournament is a blessing.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So obviously you played at the collegiate level. How much, you get, and you pitched, so you get that dead arm, right? After, like, if you wear it out, is the time off enough to, like, Siskar hasn't pitched in 2 weeks. Neither has Darius, right? And is that enough time to get some more?
I think it's important I think it's important for the younger guys. I think it's important but most importantly, it's important for Griffin. I'll tell you why it's not it's important for all of them. But remember, you got to think about it. Siskar and Darius. They didn't start, throwing. They weren't in the rotation until about midway through the year. So it's not like they've been starters for the whole entire time. Point. So I think that they're okay to a certain degree. I think they just have to. For them, it's more about focus, right? So it's getting back into focus and start doing what you were doing a couple of weeks ago, right? And get back into that mode. I mean, even though Siskar still looks pretty damn good. You can see that sometimes they kind of lose their focus, and they give up hits or they walk guys that they're not supposed to, and whatever, the wheels fall off a little bit. But more importantly for Griffin, because this is the first year that Griffin's ever been a full-time starter, right? Like a full-time pitcher. He platooned. He played the field at Cincinnati when he was there. And then he pitched as well. He was kind of like a middle reliever / starter guy. So he didn't get the innings that he got now. Now you're talking about a guy who's been in the rotation he's been in the rotation the whole season. And he hasn't thrown this many innings ever, especially at the collegiate level. So he's the guy that's going to benefit the most from this. Maybe a guy like Carson Fisher, who we really leaned on a lot in that streak when we were kicking ass. You saw his arm get a little tired in the last couple of weeks as well. So
yeah, I mean, that Cal game was a just running through all of the arms that we had leaned on to get to this point, and all of them getting smacked.
All of them. So you saw the emergence of Robbie Evans a little bit, but even him, he got hit a little bit at the end.
And then Jackson came on and late in the game too, and gave up a homer, but he actually looked pretty good because, again, I think he and Robbie are interesting to me because they've actually pitched well down the stretch. I know I said Jackson gave up a homer, but like other than that,
the guy that I think needs to get back going.
Well, this is the thing. So, like, how much, like, their arms are they didn't pitch as much this year. Robbie basically went months without pitching, and now
he was hurt for some time.
Yeah, and then Jackson was pitching a lot at the beginning of the season, went through a lull. He's starting to get more appearances now.
Right.
I am curious if we lean on them a little bit. Their arms are fresher.
Well, I think that you're going to see.
We've gone to, like you said, we've gone to Carson Fisher, to Will Smith. We've run through them. On that last game against Notre Dame, he tried to see if he could get anything out of Reese Lumpkin out of the bullpen. That did not work. And so I do wonder if, one thing, he pulled Griff out of that Cal game really early. I think it was the third inning. He walked the guy and just yanked him.
Yeah.
assuming that was to preserve his arm some too in anticipation of regionals. But I don't think we'll see that quick hook again because the bullpen's just not there to sustain off of that. But I'm curious if we see some of these.
Vish, you're gonna have to rely on more arms. Period. Regardless of who it is, I think you need. Yeah, I heard someone talk about it today. I think that was on ESPN actually when they were talking. They had that Road to Omaha show going. They were talking about how many guys you need to be able to rely on more or less in your rotation or in your staff. You need at least 5 or 6 guys that you can rely on for sure, right? So let's name those guys. Let's go off the top of my head. You got Hughes, you got Siscar, and you got Darius. So you got those 3. Then who are the other 3 following those guys? You got Walters for Carson Fisher, 5. And who's your 6th guy?
You have Will Smith, you have Giroux.
Will Smith,
you have Giroux.
Right? So you got
and then Robbie, I think they want against lefty.
Robbie's your lefty.
And then
you saw Jake Bourne come in and he walked the guy and he was out.
Yeah, and I think then Jackson's the next arm up. Probably, I do think if we get to a 4th game, we'll probably start Reese. Although, I'd frankly look at a whole stop in that. I mean, Reese did a good job in the midweek. I think against that higher level batting, he struggled this year, and so I don't know that I would necessarily. I mean, I guess we wouldn't have a choice if we're playing a 4th game out of a loser's bracket or something to run him out there, but I would definitely consider short, using the whole bullpen at that point and trying to get through a game. Yeah, we'll see. I do think we're going to see maybe it depends. Of course, it depends on how far. If you're done in 2 games, you're not going to even see Darius. But assuming they get further into the weekend and don't go 0-2, yeah, I mean the first 3 starters. I think to answer Professor Rosenthal's question, I think it's Griff Friday. It's regardless of result, it'll be AJ Saturday, and then assuming we haven't gone 0-2, it'll be Darius in the first game on Sunday, and then depending on the previous results, that could be enough to come out of the regional, or you could still need to win 2 more games. So,
right.
Or you could be out at that point. But then that's when it gets dicey because I think Lumpkin has started a lot. I don't know that I trust him in that spot, and then there isn't even anyone else. I mean, I do wonder if Drew started midweek a little bit earlier. Maybe we hold him back as well. But that's the thing. Like, do not use him in a spot where you might need him because you're thinking it's been very inconsistent. Like I'd say we've 100%. Like we kind of know Carson Fisher is going to pitch a lot, right, over the course of the weekend. We know that Will Smith and Giroux have been very hot and cold in terms of how and forget their performance, how they're used. Like, I don't know what JD thinks of either of them because it's like he'll go to them and then he won't go to them for 2 weeks. And he'll go to them again and then he won't. And so those 2 have been a little bit – sometimes they'll try to extend them out from multiple lanes. Sometimes like one batter in there.
You can also tell their fatigue as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not – that's what I'm saying. I'm not even talking about the performance because I think everyone's arm – we leaned on like 4 guys for like a month and they got us over the finish line to this point and then their arms paid the price for it. I think that's where we're at. So yeah, it's tough to say like what JD views like their roles are at this point. Like, is Will Smith someone you go to eat 2 or 3 innings like he did in that game against Duke that kind of turned our season around? I don't know. I don't know if he views it that way because he's also brought him in for like one batter sometimes and then pulled him out. So I don't.
Yeah, he's got to do a good job of managing these guys as well.
It's a tough problem, like we said, because look, if you win the first 2 games, you're in great shape pitching wise. If you lose either of those, you got to win. You got to play 5 games to get out of there. We don't have 5. No one has 5 pitchers that can start. So at that point, you are thinking, all right, how many arms did I use? Who did I use here? At that point, we're going to see a lot of people trying to get through those. But that's why it's really.
That's Calera again. Who knows?
Yeah, I haven't seen him.
I think he's injured.
No, but I think that's where you'll definitely see like Jackson probably try to eat several innings for the team.
Right.
Maybe Robbie Evans gets to pitch to righties.
The trick to
But you agree, right? Griff is the guy on Friday.
Yeah. You gotta go with him, and you have to.
Yeah, and we just real quick. I think we talked about this earlier. It looks like Derek Williams might be able to come back. It doesn't look like Todd Hudson is, but we'll see. Nothing has been officially communicated. So
my key to the pitching staff altogether, right, is as you can see, we're a pitching staff that throws a lot of stuff that moves, right? Whether it's hard or not, it's a lot of stuff that moves. So you got to keep the ball down, especially for guys like. I think the most important thing is guys like Will Smith, guys like Carson Fisher, guys like Jackson Cleveland. You notice when they throw, if they can keep the ball down, if they can keep the ball low in the zone, they're going to be very successful. Especially you look, you got Will Smith who's got a very good slider. He doesn't throw hard, but he seems to be throwing the ball past people because he keeps the ball low. His arm angle, all those things kind of play into it. Jackson throws a little bit harder, but if Jackson keeps the ball down and then he comes with his hook is he might have the best curveball on the team, but he needs to keep the ball down because if not, he leaves the ball, he leaves that hook over the plate and it gets hit, and he gets hit hard. So it's all about them. You got to pray and you got to hope that they're not that fatigued anymore, right? That they've kind of you know healed a little bit, gotten there. They're throwing in, but they're healthy enough where they're not going to tire out. They're not going to fatigue too fast. Because the trick to it is just like that: keep the ball low, keep the ball down in the zone, and throw a lot of strikes. You can't have Griffin. Griffin cannot have a first inning where he gives up 2 or 3 runs. That's unacceptable. That's a loss. Boom. Because you're talking about this is conference. This is now playoffs. This is now the road to Omaha. You give up 2 or 3 runs in that first inning, and now you're behind the 8 ball against a team that could have even potentially hosted. That's how good that team is. They've got a couple of guys that can really pitch,
We
and a
should talk
couple of guys that
about
can really
Alabama.
swing it. Okay, you can't get down 2 or 3 runs in the first inning on an SEC program like that.
Well, I mean, let's talk about Alabama a little bit, right? Because good point. Like they do, we mentioned their two pitchers who they're solid. Um, their big thing is they played again unbound schedule. They played a tough SEC schedule.
Right.
Finished a couple of games over 500. Their strength schedule is 28. Now, I don't know that we realized this at the time we were running through our schedule. We did play the 8th best schedule in the country. Like
Yeah. No.
you don't realize that like we missed the bad ACC teams. Like you don't realize that.
No, we got all the good ones except maybe Clemson.
Yeah, we missed Clemson. I think is the only kind of big one, and Louisville. But Louisville's kind of down where we are, so like it wasn't. But yeah, we hit all the tougher ones. We played UF out of conference. We played Connecticut out of conference. And then all of a sudden you look, I'm like, oh, top 10 schedule. Didn't realize we were doing that. And then, Alabama, even though they're in the SEC 28, so they didn't necessarily play, quite at the competition level we did. But yeah, you hit it right. So their big things are they won 2 or 3 from Oklahoma, 2 or 3 from Georgia. Those are tournament teams. Georgia's obviously a national seed. That's their best win of the year. They did play Tennessee, Auburn, LSU, Vandy. Those are 4 hosts, 3 national seeds. They lost all 4 of those.
Whew.
So again, they played and lost to good teams. What does that mean? I don't know. So I will say that those teams are obviously that I just mentioned are all better than us. So it doesn't coming into the tournament at least. So I mean that doesn't really mean anything they lost them, but they've certainly been tested. And what I said, you hit the nail on the head. They're a big home run team. You got to keep the ball down. They will punish you. Old friend Jason Torres is over there. He's got 11 on the year. Justin LeBron is their big hitter. He's got 18 homers.
You know where LeBron is? Where LeBron is from? Good old Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, but we missed.
They got 2 kids over there.
Well, I mean, Jason Torres was here for a bit, but they have 4 hitters with double-digit home runs, so they're a big power team. And if you leave the ball up, they'll punish it. Not sure on this. Did not hear anything about that.
No, I didn't even know if that was.
I didn't know that was a thing.
But okay.
Unsure.
We'll check.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. I mean, there's some guys that basically never play. And I would assume you want to take all your pitchers because you don't want to run out of pitchers. But there's certainly guys that Like I don't think Todd's healthy enough, so he'd probably be one that's not gonna. But there's a limited number of guys we use at the plate, so I expect most of the. Yeah, Staniak might not. I mean, I honestly was unaware of this roster limit, so I haven't really gone through the roster to look at it.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm assuming they get allowed to travel with the team anyway. Some of these guys weren't going to play anyway, so it's just like they're not eligible to play. But I don't think we'll leave anyone in Miami. But that was news to me. I did not know you were limited to 27 players in the tournament.
Yeah, I had no idea. It's good
Yeah, but there are definitely some pitchers that have been pitched. There's a lot of guys in the field we probably, could. Again, Todd's injured, so I think he would be one if Derek's not healthy.
Where's Yaga? Probably.
Well, I think it'd probably be if you have to. Again, this is assuming we have to cut down. It's probably him or Degoti. You probably take one.
Wow, yeah, that's another one we haven't seen.
Yeah. Arziaga got the at bats later in the year, and neither of them really played a lot. Although, who's our backup fielding? If you need at least one of them,
I'd probably keep Degoti.
Yeah, probably keep Degoti out of that. Yeah. And then, you probably just have Tavares and not Nick Johnson, maybe. I don't know. I mean, this is speculation. I don't know how they'd manage it. I haven't really looked at the whole roster to know, okay, this is how many pitchers we have that we're actually going to use. I will say default is to take as many pitchers as you can.
Yeah.
Especially if you get into the losers bracket and you got to play 5 games, you might be using everyone. But, yeah, I don't know. Did not do the roster analysis. I don't even know how many players we have on the team to begin with, so.
We'll see what happens.
But anyway, that game our game is Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. in Mississippi.
This will be there to cover the game.
I have acquired plane tickets and all that stuff, and I'm waiting for them to start selling the actual tickets to the game. So I'm not just wandering the Mississippi countryside with no way in. Obviously, we can also work through the AD and get credentials as a fallback, but I don't want to go there and be neutral. So I got to go get into a fight with some people from Mississippi and Alabama. Come on now. So I can't be doing that in the press box.
No, you can't. No.
So waiting for that part. But yeah, I'll be out there in Hattiesburg this weekend. But yeah, it should be. So just for the overall schedule, because they did release the whole weekend schedule, just so people are aware, it is kind of on that cadence. So we're I'm gonna do these Eastern times. These are not local time there. If you're going to the game, subtract an hour.
They're in Central time.
Yeah, they're in Central time. So I'm gonna tell you Eastern times though, because most of our audience is in Miami is not going. We're playing 3 p.m. Friday. The second game is 7 p.m. Friday. Southern Miss Columbia. Saturday, the first game is 3 p.m. again. If we lose, we're playing in that. If we win, then the second game Saturday is actually at 9 p.m. So it's a later start. 9 p.m. for us, 8 p.m. there. So if we win, that'll be it. Then Sunday, back to the same schedule as Friday. First game is at 3 p.m. Second game is at 7 p.m. And then if there's a deciding game, we're still playing on Monday. That time has not been determined. So the only oddball is the second game on Saturday is at 9 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. Everything else is 3-7, 3-7, 3-7.
3-7. Gotcha. All
right.
And on ESPN, probably on the ACC network somewhere, you'll have
well, we got the big, because it's Miami Bama for. I mean, that's a big time.
That's ESPN 2.
Yeah, that one got real TV. That's ESPN 2. After that, still network to be determined based on probably the opponents. So, Miami Bama's 2 big baseball programs. So that one got the old school. Actually, you can just turn a TV on and watch it treatment, not the streaming treatment. So
yeah, should be fun, man. Look, listen. Before we go, baseball is a sport of hot streaks, also, man. If you get hot. You may not be the best team, but if you can get hot and you can win ball games, you can play clutch and come through in some big situations and just continue to ride that wave and stay hot. You can do some damage, man. You can look. I mean, I know Ole Miss was better than that. That last than being the final team in the tournament a few years back when we actually hosted them in the regional, and they ended up being the final, the 64th team in. And they won it all, but they were number 1 in the country to start off that year. So obviously, it says something about them. They were a good program, but the bottom line is, you get hot, man. It doesn't matter if you're the 64th team or the first team. or the number one team in the whole entire thing, right? You get hot, you win a few ball games, and you keep it going, man. You just keep it going, and that's how baseball is. Baseball is a tricky sport. It's a fun sport because it's exciting to see. You know, if if Colombia gets hot and all of a sudden beats Southern Miss, and you're talking about a complete curveball in this regional, and that's going to happen in some of the regionals. So make sure you watch baseball, not only our regional, but watch these regionals and how much fun it is to watch some of these teams upset some others, and you're like, Jesus, how did that happen? It's good baseball everywhere, folks. And if someone gets hot, they can beat anybody. It can happen. We've seen it here with the Hurricanes, and we've seen it with other teams in the country. Look at Northeastern as well, another team that's really hot. So just keep your eyes out because anything can happen, and we're hoping for that anything to happen for the Miami Hurricanes. Maybe they can turn around and start getting hot again, win some games, and make some noise.
Yeah, I think it's important for just focus for 9 innings. There's no clock in baseball. Well, there's a pitch clock now, but there's no game clock. So the game's never over, and you just gotta make them earn the 27 outs.
That's it.
And yeah, just keep fighting. Things can happen. I don't want there's been times this year where we've hung our heads. Those times have come and gone. Just focus for 27 outs, fight every at bat, and see where it lands. This team is definitely talented enough to beat anyone. So
absolutely.
Let's hope for it.
All right, fellas. Everybody.
We'll be back next week. We'll see the scheduling, man. If we somehow are playing Monday, then then I gotta figure some stuff out at work because I went to Friday off. But
you know what? I hope
I can't leave. I can't leave if we're playing the deciding game. So
well, if we are, then that's great. But I hope we've decided it before that.
Yeah, I'd love a nice leisurely 3-0 and just coming back to Miami on Sunday night would be great.
That would be nice. Make sure you follow us on Twitter or on X at Canes on Deck. Subscribe to the 5 Reasons Canes podcast as well, wherever it is you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Miami takes on Alabama Friday on ESPN 3. On ESPN 2 at 3 p.m. Eastern time in Hattiesburg. It's the road to Omaha, and here we go. Let's go. Let's go get them. We'll see you guys next Monday. Go Canes.
Go Canes.